Hello, everyone. My name's Chris Bona. I'm Google's open source person, and they have me moderate this each year, at least until they replace me with someone better for next year. I want to thank you all for coming. One of the really nice things about the Fireside Chats is that you get really direct access to the software engineers behind the software that we all love, Android. And for the other Fireside Chats, other technologies that we're not going to talk about. So that's actually a really special thing in a lot of ways, and it's something that's very appealing to me as an open source person because, you know, at its core, engineers talking to engineers is what moves the entire industry and computer science forward, and that's something that I very much believe in. So we're going to start today by just doing short introductions of our many panelists, and then we'll take questions both here in the room from the microphones that you see here. We will pay no attention to you at all, unless you're in front of a microphone, as well as from the moderator instance that we set up. So let's go ahead and start with Dave.
Hi, I'm Dave Sparks. I'm the technical lead of the Android Media Framework. That's media graphics, camera, video, stuff like that.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Zavin, and I work on the Android systems team. So we're responsible for the Linux kernel and some of the other low-level software.
I'm Dan Bornstein. I'm the tech lead for the Dalvik virtual machine and core libraries, so the layer above what Rebecca works on.
I'm Ficus Kirkpatrick. I work on Android Market.
I'm Debajit Ghosh. I'm the tech lead manager for Music Beta by Google, and I previously worked on the Sync framework, Google Sync integrations, and the cloud-to-device messaging APIs that we released last year here at Google I/O.
I'm Dianne Hackborn. I'm the tech lead on the Android frameworks, so that's the activities, intents, and view hierarchy and stuff like that.
Hi, I'm Xavier Ducrohet. I'm the lead for the SDK and developer tools.
Hi, I'm Andy Stadler. I have been working on Android enterprise apps for quite a while now, but for the last few weeks I've been having a really good time building apps for the Android at Home initiative.
Hi, I'm Jeff Hamilton, and I worked on a bunch of different things. Most recently, I'm working on the Android NFC stack.
I'm Dan Morrill. I do open source and compatibility these days.
Thanks, everyone. So just so you know, we'll be transitioning the last 10 minutes of this talk for the iRobot folks to talk about their robots, because we thought that would be fun. So just you should know that. So you should expect them in the last 10 minutes of this talk. So let's go ahead and just get started with the interrogation. Again, please go to the mics if you want to talk. When will developers from more countries be enabled to open Android merchant accounts to sell their apps on the Android market? What's the schedule on that? I'm trying to put some personality into this. Any info would be appreciated. There are many developers waiting for this.
We hear your concerns. We're actively working on launching Market in more regions, more countries, and there's actually some stuff coming up pretty soon about this. So I can't say anything about schedule right now, but very soon.
Thanks, Ficus. OK, first mic, first person.
Hi. Excuse me. My question is, it's actually about the new music beta. I don't know if this is premature to ask, but as a software developer who has a music app out in the Android marketplace, I'm wondering, are developers going to have access to that as we do now with the media libraries, or is that something that's going to be controlled by Google?
Should I repeat the question? Or?
No, they heard it.
So as to developer APIs for Music Beta by Google, we don't have any open APIs at this time.
OK, because you realize that's going to sort of destroy anybody who's doing a music app.
Sorry, I'm talking about the cloud portion.
That's what I'm talking about as well. Like, until now, there's been no easy way of getting the music on the phone, and now there is. And you're saying that the libraries that you've developed to do that, we won't have access to?
No, the APIs that currently exist will be supported. So, like for example, the media provider and so on will continue to provide information as it currently does about music that is installed or present on the SD card and so on. I don't know offhand, and maybe you're not the right person either to know what the behavior on the device is. Dave, do you know anything about this? So basically, like, what will we do if if you're streaming music, obviously it's not going to appear.
No, what I'm
may or
talking
may
about
not
is
appear in
that the media
provider.
libraries as they stand, if somebody has music on the phone, they can play them in any developer's
so-
music player. So it seemed to me it would make sense that we'd be able to do the same thing with the cloud now that that's there. Or if we're not allowed to do that, then we're kind of done.
I don't think we have anybody representing the actual music client. I don't know what the behavior of on the device is, but the media provider API and all that exists on device must continue to function in some way. So apps won't be completely broken, but I don't have an answer right now for what
I guess what I'm asking is, will we have access to the cloud-based music service? Is that a yes or no?
I don't think he knows yet.
They don't know. Okay. Because like I say, it either seems like a major opportunity or kind of the time to call it quits.
So I have to admit, I don't see the latter as being as probable, I guess. I mean, I think that having streaming music is really neat and important stuff, but I don't think it means the end to all on-device MP3 files and all on-device music players. And so maybe I'm not as pessimistic as you are, or as optimistic as you are about our chances. But I mean, I don't mean that in a mean way. I just, I don't think it's the end of music just because we start doing streaming.
No, I don't think it's the end of music, but like I say, it does. Like I say, I see it as either a great thing or something that, like I say, makes me not so motivated to continue on.
Let me clarify by being a little bit more specific. So we've got this media provider that it says this is the music that's on the device.
Right.
Basically, what you're asking is, will that, or essentially one thing that it could do is say it could show tracks that are in the cloud, even though they're not present on the device, or it could only show tracks that are physically present on the device. All I'm saying is, I don't know what the behavior of the app is.
No, beyond that, what I want to know is, will I be able to play music in my app off the Google Music Cloud?
Right, and right now we don't know the answer to that is what I'm saying. So my suggestion actually would be to ask that in the Android developers group, and then we can definitely rustle up the right person there to answer the question.
Cool, thank you.
Yep.
Let's go to the second mic back. Black shirt dude.
Hi, thanks. My question was that today you guys announced more of a unification between the Google TV and Android tablets and phones. Wondering if you can talk about maybe in the future any kind of merging with the Chrome code base, what's going to happen to Chrome eventually and Android?
I would bring that up to the Chrome Fireside chat.
Well, I mean, it seems like Android is eventually going to take over in that sense.
So Chrome and Android actually share a fair amount of code through the WebKit stuff and through some of the browser stuff. So that might continue, but we have nothing really to say at this time other than that, right? So.
Ask the Chrome team.
Sorry. Are there any? So Anthony Persaud from Irvine, California says, are there any plans to have a layout tool, aka interface builder, for building Android apps?
Yes, we already have one, kind of. I mean, it's not finished, I agree, but we already have one, and we are heavily working on it. I actually have a session tomorrow afternoon where we'll show a lot of the new feature in there, so I encourage you to attend that talk.
They really like that answer.
I can just say I've been using it for this at-home stuff I've been working on, and it's really cool. It was such a nice change from tweaking XML.
Isn't everything, though? Okay, red shirt fellow in the front mic.
Hi. My question is on data SMS. Currently, if you send a SMS and only wake up the application, we can do that, but it's not directly to a port. Anybody can take the message and use it on their app. So my question is, what's the direction? Are we going to, in future Android releases support data SMS, or are we going to go away from data SMS and use C2DM, full-fledged?
Unfortunately, we don't have a telephony person up here, so we're kind of screwing you.
SMS, I remember that technology, right?
That was like Twitter, right? No, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, we have no answer for you. We're horrible people. Back microphone, front grayish, brown, black shirt.
All right, I have two questions, but I'll keep it brief and ask them both up front. They're both about Android market. One is that recently you introduced a lot of statistics around what you could see about how your app's been performing, but very notably missing is just downloads that you get per day, downloads you got historically. So I've been keeping a spreadsheet by hand every day of the number of downloads, and I'm still have to do that, even with all the stuff that you guys have added. And it's pretty important information. So I'm wondering when you'll give people the ability to look at their download trends and download spreadsheets or just anything better than a single static number. The other thing is that Tim Bray has been really good about getting you guys to blog more, which is awesome. But the Android support forums are just filled with many, many threads where there's been no official answer. There's a lot of simmering resentment on these threads, irrational or not. Do you guys have any plans on increasing how well you support that forum?
I can speak to the stats stuff. It sounds like I've been blogging more, but not enough, and you gave us more stats, but not enough.
Yes, that's right.
More.
We want more, we understand. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Again, I don't have a schedule to announce, but I agree with you. That seems like important information, and I think as we continue to push a lot of the developer features forward, like we did with the launch of all the really cool new stat stuff, that will be coming. As far as resentment, I think that's something we want to see trending downward in general. But I think that's really more of a developer relations question.
I do see Tim over there.
No, it's okay. You can answer for him.
No, I think we need to hear from Tim.
He should walk faster. Tim's not wearing his hat.
So fortunately, these guys are pretty easy to convince to blog. So we'll keep cracking the whip on that, and we'll try and we have an internal target of trying to get something done of substantial technical import at least once a week. So we'll go on doing that. But at the end of the day, bear in mind, I mean, look at the size of this room. We're like totally outnumbered, and at the end, we really need to be in the business of teaching the teachers.
You guys should also take this opportunity to say you're hiring.
This thing is talking to me.
Thank you.
The robot's talking to you?
Yes, the robot is saying, "Excuse me."
Are you sure?
Oh, I'm quite positive.
It's saying, "Excuse me," it wants attention?
I can confirm that.
Don't bad touch the robot. For the market. Oh, here's a great one. I really like this question. From Badajos, from a country that's actually his company name. What about a better emulator? When will it be available?
Yes, so we are very aware that the emulator is difficult to use these days. We are working on it. We don't have a whole lot to announce because it's not ready, but I have a demo at my talk tomorrow, and it's in that room, so
what time
I
is your
encourage
talk?
you to attend.
What time is your talk?
3 something? I'm not sure. In this room.
In this room.
You will be here, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think I have to go back to the second microphone, to the person with the print shirt.
Yeah, I'm looking for a way to gain access to an event when a file is added, changed,
Like the
deleted.
ePOL interface, that kind of thing?
Yeah, either in the framework or down in core somewhere. Is that available?
That was the robot.
Oh. If the robot knows, that's fine.
There's a class called Fowl Observer that lets you monitor the file system.
Perfect. And that's just going to be unprotected files, and I'm assuming nothing that's sandboxed?
Only your own files.
Your own files. How about stuff on the SD card? Maybe pictures and music, that kind of thing?
It should work on the SD card, although I have not tested that, so I believe it does.
Okay, thank you.
So kapow. There you go. We answered one. That's great. Hat guy. Love your hat.
Thanks.
It's an Android hat.
Thanks.
Android being what you're here for.
We're using the compatibility layer for Honeycomb pretty extensively, and there's a couple of bugs in there that are significant to what we're doing. Do you guys have a release schedule for that, or planning any updates to the compatibility layer?
This is the fragment compatibility library?
Yeah.
Their MR1 will have an update to it that I think addresses like the animation and some other issues people had.
Okay. Is there a release date for that?
Is it ready? No, I didn't push anything, so if the package is ready, I'll just push it after I guess.
That's the release date for the update that should start going out to Verizon customers on Zooms today.
Yeah.
So I have a quick public service announcement.
Okay.
Just because I feel that it's important that the world know this. The green android, as depicted in the hats that I see in the room here, he has no official name, but we call him the bug droid. So I've seen in the press, like people calling him Andy and things like that, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys know that we call him the bug droid.
You sound almost offended. All right. Are we going to see carrier billing for users in countries outside the United States? And in general, there's a number of, when will we get music, books, and movies launched in countries other than the US? So 2 international questions for you.
We already have carrier billing outside of the U.S.
So there you go.
It's been launched at least in Japan. And again...
Japan is not in the United States.
Japan, last I heard. And to the earlier question about launching in more countries, same thing. We're always looking to integrate with more carriers, bring people more ways to buy apps. As far as the books and movies question, I think a lot of that is dependent on licensing deals. Again, no schedule.
I think the back microphone. It's turn. You, dark shirt. Summer code shirt, looks like?
Yes. Hi, Chris. I'm one of your GSOC mentors.
Awesome. So.
Can I ask the hard question or the easy one?
It's up to you.
But
you have to ask one now.
Okay. The hard one then. So when do you think Google will release a source version of Android that, when built, provides complete hardware support and every single feature that's in the closed packages that the carriers provide?
Damn.
In other words, when will we have a complete open source Android? Alternatively, can we call it Android/Linux? Sorry, I saw RMS a couple weeks ago, and it's been on my mind. So, but yeah.
So yeah, the Nexus S has, we've reached agreements with the various chipset vendors in the Nexus S to include redistributable, under non-commercial terms at least, versions of the binary drivers for most of the components, and we're working with the chipset vendors on the remaining components. What this basically means is checkout of the AOSP source code plus files that you download from our website plus make equals bootable, fully functional device.
Except there's no source code, so I couldn't take it and put it into, say, Polsbo or any other SGX graphics.
You'll have to talk to the chipset vendors about that. I mean, realistically,
they said no.
There's essentially, well, I mean, it's their decision for the most part. There's all kinds of IP restrictions on this that they're bound by. That's not a landscape that we really understand or really even have that much insight into. So, for example, like the radio image that runs on the secondary processor in most of these phones, that's completely opaque to us for the most part. So it's not, we are sort of a software vendor to chips and software that runs on these chips that we don't really have any insight into. So what we can do is produce, the drivers and make sure that those are available under, useful terms, at least for the devices that, that we ship ourselves. But unfortunately, it's really in the hands of the chipset vendors and, the OEMs to really kind of complete the loop.
That's deeply unfortunate. Thank you.
Well, it's less deeply unfortunate now than it was when we launched the G1. Each iterative step, when we do the full Android open source release, we end up having more and more of those components in place. So this isn't the kind of thing, this isn't the kind of war you win. It's a constant ongoing effort to keep more and more things open. So we just work hard at that. And it's better now than it was 2 years ago. It's better now than it was a year ago. And it'll be better in a year from now than it was now. So, that's actually something I'm kind of proud of with the team. But. Thanks. White shirt microphone.
Okay. One of the major things that is an issue with Android, next to battery life sometimes, is fragmentation. So there's a lot of choice. You have over 300 devices, which is a good thing for the consumer, but is sometimes a nightmare for developers, and I think mostly for game developers. So there are a lot of things that are being done from within the Android team, but are there additional things that are being launched, additional initiatives to help reduce those fragmentation, help developers?
This question gets asked every year, and the answer is, usually the same. We do what we can. And we are continually improving the CTS test. One thing that actually is really useful is that the CTS, the compatibility test suite, is developed in the open. Like right now, it's actually not because there's Honeycomb tests that are useless without Honeycomb source, obviously. But like for example, if you encounter a bug in Gingerbread, you as a developer encounter a bug in Gingerbread, you can submit a test to us to cover that case, which will fix it for future devices and so on. So really, part of it is do check out the CTS, and if there's something that you can contribute, it will help a lot there. At the same time, there are other problems. You mentioned game developers in particular, and that's certainly true. I don't know how much Dave can comment on where we are with some of the stuff that we're planning on the for some of the OpenGL related topics and things like that. That's really kind of his, and I don't know a great deal about that. But in general, what we aim to do is improve these things over the next few releases, and then of course at the same time we're also working, as we announced this morning, more aggressively with the OEMs and carriers to make sure that updates get out there more regularly and so on. So I don't know, Dave, did you want to talk about?
Yeah, just briefly. We're working directly with all the chipset vendors on compatibility issues. GPU, that's an area we're painfully aware of. The problem, this is no different than a desktop system, right? They all have their own texture formats, and typically they're protected by patents. So it's not like we have a lot we can do in that area, but we're certainly working on it. We're working within Kronos to help standardize some things. Like a good example of something we've done recently is the texture streaming stuff in Honeycomb, which allows you to take video or camera frames and move them directly into the GPU and render those within a 3D scene graph. So we're working at that level with the chipset vendors to try to get more common functionality across all the devices by creating extensions that are specific to Android, like this texture streaming stuff. So it's a difficult situation. I think it's going to get better, especially over the next year. And GPUs are an area where things are advancing really quickly. We're seeing performance jumps. We're seeing all kinds of new features in the GPUs, and those will, for the next probably 3 or 4 years, you're going to see doubling in performance. So I think that's an area that's very promising.
I just wanted to add that on the market side, we're going to be announcing some stuff pretty soon to address a lot of these issues, particularly games developers have. And I know it's a tough problem you guys struggle with, and we want to help you deal with it. So I'd really encourage anyone who this is a topic near and dear to your heart to attend Eric Chu's talk tomorrow morning.
Sergio in Lisbon says, are there plans to let the developers respond to feedback and reviews from their users? Which I think is pretty important. That guy thinks it's really important too.
Yes. Excuse me? Time frame. Not clear. We're working on it.
Similarly, will the marketplace have plans to support the use of promo codes for free downloads for marketing purposes? It's kind of a specific ask, but yeah.
That, as far as I know, we do not have plans for right now. But I wouldn't rule it out. But I am not personally working on it right now.
The blue shirt on the second microphone.
Yeah, any plans to upgrade the support for larger apps? I know 50 megs is pretty much the limit right now. I mean, with tablet apps, or more tablets out there, more ability to support some really large apps that particularly if have a lot of audio or video in them?
Absolutely, yes. Again, you should come to Eric Chu's talk tomorrow morning. We're going to have some stuff to show.
So I have 3 quick questions. When will C2DM graduate from Google Labs? When will the porting guide be back up and updated? And is there any hope of seeing Honeycomb source if we wanted to support legacy tablets, or do we have to wait for Ice Cream Sandwich?
You want to start with the Honeycomb source question? Because that's asked in the thing too.
So I guess you asked about the porting guide. That went away because it was basically obsolete, and it was essentially actively misleading. So we're like, better to not have anything, than, and let people look at the source to figure out how the build system works and so on, than to actively give them erroneous info. And so, but at the same time, yeah, we know that there is some good info there that needs to come back. We're working on it. What we're doing right now is gathering information that, in fact, some of the people on this lineup that you see here owe me, kind of technical information that I need to relaunch a sort of replacement for this section. So we've been really busy preparing for I/O. I know that it's a bit inconvenient, and we'll get some content back up there when it's actually useful and correct and accurate and up to date. And I think I missed, what was the Honeycomb source question?
Well, is the source code ever going to be really open source?
That's an interesting question. And to answer it, I need to answer it in the form of an explanation of Git. So for those who are not terribly familiar with Git, basically what it boils down to is it's a system that tracks individual commits, and it sort of reassembles them, as you instruct it to, and this is as terrifying and as awesome as it sounds. So what this means is you can think of Honeycomb as this sort of gigantic collection of a bunch of little patches stored in Git. And if you ask the question, will we ever release the Honeycomb source? Well, we can't not and yet still release the ice cream sandwich, because these patches will still all be there in the history of whatever source we push that is ice cream sandwich. So in other words, Honeycomb is sort of a set of patches. Ice cream sandwich is a larger set of patches that also includes all of the Honeycomb patches. So the source will inevitably get out there in one form or another. The question is, will we essentially tag it in such a way as to let somebody reconstruct like a Honeycomb build from that source? And that's what we don't know right now. It depends on how things shake out in the fourth quarter when we get ready to look at ice cream sandwich releases.
So before fourth quarter, we won't see it. Or we won't see anything that will allow us to build essentially a Honeycomb image for a legacy tablet, for example.
As far as I know right now, that's correct.
Yeah, we announced specifically we're not releasing Honeycomb source.
Okay. And then the final question was the C2DM. When will it graduate? It was supposed to graduate from Google Labs by December last year. Still, as far as I know, requires official approval.
Which one are you talking about?
C2DM, the cloud-to-device messaging.
I have no idea.
Yeah, C2DM's cloud-to-device messaging, it's doing really well. There's a tremendous amount of usage for it. I don't recall ever setting a date for when it will graduate from Google Labs. It's on our priority list, but I have nothing to announce at this time.
Okay, thank you.
The fellow on the second microphone.
Honeycomb provides support for storage encryption. What are the encryption algorithms used, and what is the encryption file system used for storage encryption in Honeycomb?
You mean the file system data partition encryption?
Yes.
It's sitting on top of dmcrypt, which is something that's supported in the kernel. Okay. And I think it's, I don't want to mislead you, but I think it's AES 128. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
What are your plans for the NFC APIs? And in this case, I'd say just watch the NFC session, which is later today, right?
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Just what are the plans for the NFC APIs?
For NFC APIs?
Yeah.
So I guess in Android 2.3.3, we released much more support for NFC, a wider variety of APIs that allow full reader-writer support, so you can interact with all sorts of legacy NFC devices. That just came out pretty recently. 2.3.4 doesn't have any additional support for new APIs, but 2.3.3 had a bunch of new stuff there. We're giving a talk right after this one in this room, going into more detail on NFC. So I suggest listening to that.
Stick around
one.
for that, yeah, if you want that.
I have two questions. First question about Chrome. What are the challenges to enable a full Chrome browser in the Android?
There's no Chrome browser on Android, so there's a lot of challenges, I'd imagine. Yeah, I would ask the Chrome guys during their fireside. So, what's your second question?
Second question is about, is there a plan to enable Android virtual machine in a different environment? For instance, within Chrome, can we run an Android virtual machine?
I would ask the Chrome guys. I don't know what their plans are around that. So.
Yeah, there's nothing particularly technical stopping that from happening. That's nothing that anybody up here is.
It's just programming, Yeah, blue shirt in the back.
I would love to be able to learn from the apps you build in large-scale apps, like the Google apps, Gmail, Books, Is there any plans on making that available for developers to learn from?
Dan?
So you mean like what, like a case study or like a technical sort of?
The source code.
Oh, the source code?
Oh. Gosh, how'd they do that?
Yeah, I'm going to say no. That it's come up before. I mean, we periodically revisit it, but essentially it's the reality is that even aside from the fact that there's intellectual property that's extremely important to Google in there, the reality is that a lot of the partners are motivated to work with us and make sure that their devices are compatible and so on, because we license the stuff to them. And so if we make it too freely available, then that sort of reduces the incentive of a lot of the members of the ecosystem to continue to make compatible devices and work for user and developer experience and so on. So it's a tricky situation for us. We do think about that periodically, but right now that's not something that we're able to do.
Would in-depth case studies be a possibility?
That's an interesting question, actually. I mean, we do have the mobile blog, and they've talked about, like, we've done blog posts about things like, like I think they did like a blog post about how they did the Gmail or the mobile web version of Gmail, and we can certainly look.
We should
into
make
that.
Tim Bray do that because he's over there.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
not up
yeah,
here.
we'll look into it. We'll see if that's the kind of thing that we can get out because that would be pretty interesting.
Great,
I'd
thank
read
you.
it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, okay. User.
Hi. I was pretty excited when App Inventor came out. I realized it's not going to give us rich, deep UI and things like that we can do with native development, more the traditional way. But I think it has a lot of potential to produce a lot of really simple apps for the people who are not as technically savvy. Is there any plans to bring that out of sort of the experimentation mode it's in now to make it possible to bring an app from App Inventor to the market?
I don't think that's a different team at Google actually that did that. I don't think we don't have anybody here, and I don't think we really know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they even in the sandbox? That's the question. Yeah. I think they're in the sandbox.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would find Sharon or Mark and go talk to them over there. So yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Shirt and second mic.
Okay. How does RenderScript relate to OpenCL? Is it seen as a replacement, or can we expect OpenCL on future Android versions?
Okay. Yeah. We see it as a sort of equivalent to OpenCL that is tailored for the Android environment. Android has this really rich API in Java, and we have no intention to duplicate that API for every other language out there. So if you want to get to access to all the rich APIs in Java, you need to have a Java application of some sort. RenderScript basically gives you dynamic bindings from Java to your native code. So that's why we think it's valuable. Basically, you're programming something that looks a lot like C99, so it's easy to port code over. We have a few little extensions we've thrown in to give you the multi-threading and some additional extensions, intrinsics that'll come along later on to take advantage of GPU architecture and CPU architectures in the future that will basically be done in the JET on device. So if a new device comes out with new features, your application will automatically get whatever acceleration there is. So it's basically, we think, a better way of getting at native performance from a effectively interpreted language, but not really. So there's no plans to do OpenCL. I think you'll probably see other companies that are interested in doing that, but we have no plans to support it.
Android's great on high-end devices with flat-rate data contracts, but as you move further down the scale or across the world, you're more likely to be on a metered contract. And I've seen requests from many users asking for more control over which applications can access the internet and when. Is this something you guys are likely to support, or is this against your ideology?
You want to take that one, or?
Yeah, we're looking into this.
Very closely.
Okay. Does ice cream sandwich mean all Android devices become Google TV devices for free when using the HDMI output? Are any of these Google TV type UI available in Honeycomb 3.1 before ice cream sandwich is released? Does ice cream sandwich mean all Android devices become Google TV devices for free when using HDMI output? I know the answer to that, and that's no, because there's all of this other stuff that goes into a Google TV that isn't in a phone. Are any of these Google, basically it's asking for UI that will scale to a larger screen via the HDMI output on a tablet. So I don't know if you have any plans for that.
So yes, we definitely are thinking about what happens when you plug your phone into HDMI output and you have a bigger screen on it. We have a lot of stuff in the platform to date to have activities restarted when these kind of configuration changes happen. We're going a little slow on this because it has a big impact on developers. So like having your applications now have to deal with suddenly the screen size changing significantly on you. We want to make sure that we have all the tools you need for this in there. But there's already devices out there shipping that have this that do this kind of thing, and it's definitely on our minds about how to do this really seamlessly in Android.
I think actually the second mic. It's second mic's turn.
Are there any improvements coming to the developer dashboard that you can share with us? For example, it would be really useful to be able to filter by version number.
Filter by version number of what?
Filter crash reports by version.
I see. Yes, as I spoke about earlier, we did a push recently with improved stats reporting on the developer site, and more is coming. So that one is one that I personally have thought would be really useful. I'd also like to be able to filter by device type, so you guys can see like if somebody with an Evo is crashing, you can track that down.
Great, thanks.
So I'm just curious if there have been any improvements in hardware acceleration in Android 3.1 or perhaps future releases such as Ice Cream Sandwich, because it seems like there's a lot of lag just across the board in the tablet operating system right now.
You're developing on a tablet now, and you're seeing lag?
Yes.
Have you done profiling to find out where it is? Because
well, just in the whole operating system itself, even if you're scrolling in the Gmail app by Google, it's just sort of.
Oh, okay, just sort of in general performance.
Yes.
We're constantly looking at performance. Certainly performance is one of the things we're going to look at in Ice Cream Sandwich in terms of improvements across the board. Generally, when we dig down into performance issues, it's the application that's at fault rather than the system itself, most of the time, not always. We spend a lot of time, Honeycomb has a lot of improvements across the board in terms of acceleration. We're doing GPU compositing. If you have your application with the proper manifest flag, you can take advantage of GPU acceleration. The fonts are cached in the GPU. We're doing compositing in the GPU. Where we can take advantage of it, we take advantage of overlay composition. So it really, if the device manufacturer has done a good job on their abstraction layers, then it can run at 60 frames a second rock solid. When we start looking at problems where it's not hitting that, it's usually something in the app itself. Not always, but usually.
I'm just noticing that all across the board with tablets, it seems like an issue, whereas with newer Android phones, even dual-core ones, it doesn't seem to be a problem.
Without specifics, the system performance thing is a pretty complex problem, so it may be, I'm not sure what devices you're talking about, but it may be something related to that specific device.
Great, thank you.
I'm interested in frame buffer access for screenshots and for remote control applications. And currently the story for this is fragmented. Some devices simply allow you to do that. In other cases, you can use some rather clunky methods to accomplish it. I'm wondering if this will become part of the core platform that's supported on all devices, and if not, why not? I understand that there are some security implications to that, but that's what the permission system is for. So I'd like to find out more about what the plans are for that.
Well, I hope no devices actually let you do this, but because that is a security issue. We are being able, letting the user take screenshots is definitely something that we know people wanted for a long time, and I guess it's worth mentioning the thumbnails now in the Honeycomb UI, those are actually done by taking a screenshot of the screen when you leave the application. So we have some infrastructure in there to do that now, and we should be exposing something for that fairly soon. For application access, we don't have any immediate plans for that.
From the internets, there's a question here. It's sort of interestingly formed, so I'll just try to distill it. There are questions about audio latency being a problem for Android. Are you seeing this, Dave?
Latency, really?
Yeah, latency. Like, sending a...
Never heard of it.
All right.
They must be, no, we know latency.
Especially, and it says compared to the iPhone. And he uses a star instead of the whole name of iPhone. It's okay to type iPhone into Google. Just it's okay, really.
That's something a spell checker changes to.
Maybe, yeah.
No, okay. No, latency is a big problem. We're looking at, hopefully, we hope to be able to do something about it with ICS. As we investigated, it's actually a pretty complex problem. There are a number of different places where latency gets introduced. Most of the latency is introduced below the low Android. Basically, it's happening in the drivers or in the chipsets or somewhere around there. And some of these are really obscene amounts, something like hundreds of milliseconds of latency in the audio path. So, that's something we're going to push on. We started, I think we introduced something in CDD Gingerbread, I want to say, which was a should, hit certain latencies. There are some interesting problems we need to solve in the scheduler. So I'll be talking to Rebecca shortly about this, because the fair scheduler makes it really difficult to make sure that these low latency audio threads get scheduled when we need them to be scheduled every single time, and that's probably the biggest issue we're running into right now. But it's a problem we want to deal with, and hopefully the next release will get it. Obviously, it's not going to solve the problems for legacy devices, but it's going to get better.
I have a serious question for the market guy, and then I have a lighter question. Is it at all possible that we might be able to see Android/Google checkout gift cards to send virtual gifts this holiday season coming up and not miss that boat altogether in the Android market?
It's certainly possible.
Is it on the agenda, maybe?
It's something we're looking at for sure.
Okay, and then the lighter question is, Bug Droid, really?
Yes. Yes.
It was going to be Philip, but it didn't work. The second microphone, please.
Sure. Any plans to support Unicode characters in the future?
We already support Unicode in general. Do you have something more
complex
code
Unicode
page?
characters like Hindi or Tamil, like that?
So there's a couple possible questions. One might be about fonts. The other might be about input methods.
Yeah, I've used fonts, but they don't appear that good.
So
I just want to see whether some basic support is here. iPhone 4, iOS 4 already supports it. Windows supports it. Just wondering, when does Android does it?
So I don't know when. We're constantly revving our fonts and adding new characters. Honestly, I don't know about like what schedule we have for any new sets of characters offhand. I know that we are continually adding new sets. So my guess is eventually we will cover your territory, but we don't have a schedule for that.
Well, there's another issue, which is just the size. We can't include every single font out there. And so the manufacturers have a choice of what fonts they want to put into a device. It's going to be dictated by what the geography is for that device. So you're not going to see a device that has universal support for every language out there. So it's definitely going to be regional.
And to that, there is work going on right now for complex character shaping and BiDi support. I can't give you like a date for that, but that is something that is being worked on.
There's actually threads on that on the Android-contrib mailing list. So if you want to find out what the details are, the guys working on that are actually on that list. And there's a thread that might actually be interesting and provide you some specific info there too.
Thank you.
The fellow at the first microphone.
What, if anything, are you doing in terms of real-time support in Android or support for embedded systems beyond the platforms you support now?
For rocket control, that kind of thing.
Whatever.
I guess the iRobot guys are coming up. They could answer that. No, all right.
I can try. It depends on what you mean by real time and what kinds of systems that you're envisioning. I mean, in terms of other embedded systems, we certainly have in the past worked directly on a number of different chipsets, and there are others that are well supported by their by the chipset vendors and by the various OEMs.
And real-time support?
I'd have to get a sense for what exactly you're looking for. I mean, from a platform perspective, I wouldn't think that would necessarily be something we'd do. But from a if you wanted to put Android on top of whatever operating system, low-level kernel operating system with support, that's certainly something that's within the domain of any developer or chipset vendor.
Okay. So if your question is super short, we can take it. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. I'll remind everyone that we have office hours throughout the days. So please find us there. Is it short? Make it short.
Yes, it's short.
The rest of you we won't be able to get to because we're going to go on to the next guys.
Okay, so when a user uninstalls an app, it seems like the market prompts them about the reason why they uninstalled it. As a developer, can we get that data?
Ficus?
Not currently.
Are there any plans for that?
Not currently. So.
Okay.
Sorry. All right. Thank you, guys. You can get off the stage now. Yeah. I just leave them there. Just leave them there. I'd like to welcome Colum up with a question from the moderator, which is, I have a question for the robot. When will you be available for purchase? So.
Thank you. Answer the question is the robot we're going to be talking about today is going to be available as a developer version this year. So that if you are interested in working with us, come up to our booth, give us your name, and we will be developing these guys and building more of them throughout the year. And so that we already have several of these robots here being worked on by the Google team. And more of them will come into existence as the year plays out. So, hello, my name's Colin Angle. I'm the co-founder, CEO, and chairman of iRobot. But I lay that all aside in the spirit of Chris's introduction at the beginning of this fireside chat. I am an engineer. I'm a double E with minor in computer science. And he said that when engineers talk to engineers, interesting things happen, and hopefully we can be true to that charge, because there's a big question out there, where are the robots? And I tell you that, well, let's just need a show of hands. When I was growing up, I always assumed that there would be more robots in the world than exists today. How many people in the audience are satisfied with the current state of robotics? All right, we have one hand up in the entire audience. Now, there's a reason for that. And the reason is that we have been seduced by the coolness of robots, by the vision and the dream of robots, and forgotten the fact that industries are created when the right business conditions allow for the robots and businesses to be created. For example, there's not going to be a robot industry until more companies create robots that deliver more value than they cost to produce. Academia has been overperforming in the world of robots. We have a tremendous amount of technology being developed for robots, but we don't have enough robotic products. And so I am here to make an appeal to all of you to help solve the challenge of the lack of robots in the world. So there's three ways that this robotic businesses become real. The first is to find problems so critical, so dramatic, that only a robot can solve it, and thus it doesn't matter how much the robot costs. Okay, here's some examples. We have 4,000 robots that we created over in Iraq and Afghanistan diffusing bombs. There's an incredibly valuable thing. The robots, what matters is you can throw these things off 3-story, 2-story buildings. They survive. They save soldiers' lives. You can create a business around that. We have robots at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant right now, going into the power plant, helping to try to figure out what's going on. Not a good thing for people to be doing. So there are businesses that we can create there. A second thing is to find robot-friendly tasks to do. Robots are really good at vacuuming the floor because the floor is flat. Not a lot of objects around. You can have a moderately sophisticated navigation system and do very, very well there, and you can build such robots for hundreds of dollars instead of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the Roomba, 6 million Roombas sold. That's cool. But the third option is the interesting one. The third option is technology advancements enabling robots to do things more like Rosie from the Jetsons, the types of interactions that we all thought of. And that's where you all come in, because the robot industry can't be trusted to solve this problem. We need the mobile computing industry to come and save our bacon to some real extent through the creation of stuff like this. Why? Because these tablets, you can talk to them. They have done more for voice recognition than robotics has in decades. Image understanding, voice and video over IP, very good and strong development tools exist to make these tablets easy to interact with. So what we at the robot industry realized was this is a fantastic head for a robot. Okay, it does everything. You got a camera on this thing, you got speakers, you got microphone input, you can put eyes and faces on this thing. This is a fantastic head for a robot. So what was missing is the body. So here is a robot called Ava. We've got these things running around, and what does this robot do? It navigates, it builds maps, it carries tablets. It has big speakers on it, has batteries, power supplies, things like that. So that this robot, our guys, our engineers have gone around and mapped this whole conference room center. We have a screen so you can on your tablet push a button and say go there, and it'll go and drive through the mobs, make it to where it needs to go safely and securely. There's a processing system on here running a low-level operating system independent of the tablet. So if the tablet crashes or the tablet tells the robot to drive off this cliff, the aware operating system here, which has been architected not to crash, to do a few things very, very well, will keep that robot from doing something wrong. So we've also developed a very sophisticated API between Aware and the tablets. And so now we have a platform which will make all of you developers for applications for robots. And what my company is doing is taking this, making these robots commercially available to developers this year, B2B applications next year, and then beyond getting the price point so that this is a practical thing to have in households within a few years. So our goal is to get the installed base up so that you all can make money writing apps for robots, so that we all can ultimately achieve this vision of having robots impactfully doing cool stuff for us in our lifetime. So that's my pitch. And if you think about what sort of apps are going on, you can think about making information proactive. What happens when you send an email and the person doesn't respond? The robot could get them. Remote presence. What if I could give this talk via robot, but not just as a mobile video conferencing system, as something that I can tap on the screen and say, go follow that person. Or I can have cool software which determines whether or not you're paying attention and take your image being beamed to me, make you red and say, this person's asleep, his name is Mark, so you should pick on him in the next comment you say. You could have ways of projecting yourself via robot that would be more impactful than being there yourself. And of course, the last class of application is actually doing physical work, because robots are physical, they're in our world, and so that fetching, bringing things, going out and doing the manual type of work which information alone obviously can't deliver to us, creates a huge set of opportunities. So this is the robot. We have a booth out there. We have all sorts of guys in black shirts that don't say Google, they say iRobot on them. And we'd love your support and interest in making these dreams a reality. Thank you very much.